Old bull here. If you think your anger is just part of who you are, this might shake you. Sit tight. What you're about to hear could be the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. They'll tell you that losing your temper is just part of being a man. That rage is somehow proof of passion, strength, or pride. But I'll tell you something that might rub you the wrong way. A man who can't control his temper isn't strong. He's dangerous. Not to the world, to himself. You think you're showing power when you explode? Truth is, you're leaking all the control you claim to have. And it's costing you relationships, trust, respect, sleep, even your legacy not know. One teaches us how to sit with fire without burning the house down. We're taught to be providers, protectors, fighters, but not how to stay calm when the weight gets heavy. Not how to pause when everything in you screams to lash out. And that's where real manhood begins, not in your fists, but in your restraint. If you've ever felt like something inside you is just waiting to snap, this is for you. You're not broken. You're just burning out, and there's a way out. Because when a man learns to carry his anger with quiet strength, everything shifts. His voice softens, but his presence deepens. His hands stay steady. His decisions get sharper. And life starts to feel a little less like a fight. You ready to learn how? I spent years walking around like a loaded rifle, cocked and ready, just waiting for something, anything, to pull the trigger. And most of the time, it wasn't the world that set me off. It was me. A look, a comment, a delay in traffic. They weren't the cause, just the spark. The fire was already smoldering. Inside, you see, a strong man doesn't erupt because of what's outside. He loses it when he hasn't done the work to understand what's boiling beneath the surface. There was a season in my life when I'd snap over something as simple as a broken coffee mug. But the truth is, it wasn't about the mug. It was about everything I hadn't said, every burden I was carrying, and every scar I refused to look at. Anger ain't always loud. Sometimes it hides behind silence, withdrawal, a clenched jaw at the dinner table. A real man learns to sit with those feelings, trace them back to their roots, and ask, why did that hit so hard? That's the beginning of wisdom. That's where quiet strength is born. If you never learn what sets you off, you'll keep letting life push your buttons until one day you blow, and it'll cost you more than your pride. So start small. Keep a notebook. Write down when you lose your cool. What happened? Who was involved? How you felt? Patterns will emerge, and once you see them, you can interrupt them. And when you do that, you're not just surviving the moment. You're taking back your identity. That's where manhood deepens, in the quiet discipline of owning your reactions, instead of blaming the world. And maybe, just maybe, the next time your hand trembles with rage, your heart will stay steady enough to reach for a better response. There was a time I thought I had a short fuse by nature, like I'd been born with it, passed down from the old men before me like a stubborn jawline or a crooked nose. But the truth hit me in the gut one winter morning when my blood pressure nearly set me to the A. That day, I realized something humbling. I wasn't just an angry man. I was a poorly fueled one. You can't expect a truck to run smooth when you're pouring sugar in the tank. I see it in other men too. Eyes tired, patience thin, hearts racing from too much caffeine and not enough sleep. And they wonder why they snap at their wives, growl at their kids, curse under their breath like the world's out to get them. What they don't see is that the war they're fighting isn't just mental. It's chemical. Gut health, blood sugar, hydration, it all adds up. A body out of balance becomes a mind out of control, and a man who won't take care of his temple ends up a prisoner inside it. So, here's the fix, not perfect, but powerful. Start with water. Cut back the sugar. Eat foods that keep you grounded, meat, greens, oats, eggs. Not because it's trendy, but because it works. You want to be the kind of man whose presence calms a room? Then start by calming your body. When the firewood is dry and stacked right, it burns clean. But when it's wet and moldy, it smokes and chokes everyone nearby. Same with your spirit. Same with your temper. And it doesn't stop there. I've split firewood angry, and I've split firewood in peace. The wood doesn't care either way, but my soul sure does. There's something sacred about putting your body to work, feeling your boots grip the dirt, your shoulders burn, your breath steady. A good man needs that, because when you don't move your body, your thoughts pile up like storm clouds, and eventually they pour. Physical exertion ain't just for strength. It's for release, for clarity, for surviving the noise inside. There were days I saddled up not to ride anywhere, but just to move, to breathe mountain air and let the rhythm of the horse loosen the knots in my chest. I've walked trails, pushed barbells, carried logs, hunted alone in the woods, not to prove I'm strong, but to remember I'm alive. That kind of movement resets a man. It burns off the useless anger, the regret, the feeling of being stuck. Every drop of sweat is a prayer without words. Every ache in the back is proof you didn't give up today. You don't need a fancy gym. Grab an axe, walk a trail. Do push-ups in your garage with the garage door open and the cold air hitting your lungs. Doesn't matter how, just move. We were built to carry weight, to endure. But if we don't let the body carry part of the load, the mind breaks under it. And when that happens, our temper is the first thing to snap. So move often, move with purpose, and let the motion quiet the noise before it grows too loud. I once heard a man say, "You ain't angry because they disrespected you. You're angry because you think you're too important to be disrespected." That stuck with me. There was a time I thought every slight, every delay, every disagreement was a personal attack. Truth is, I had inflated my own worth without even noticing it. I saw myself as the center of the story, and when the world didn't orbit just right, I boiled over. It's humbling when you realize you're not the main character in every scene. You're just another man walking a crooked trail like the rest of us. Boots worn out, scars healing, heart learning. And when you start to loosen your grip on pride, life gets quieter. You stop needing to prove yourself every minute. You stop reacting to every bump in the road like it's sabotage. That's not weakness. That's discipline. That's strength. Of character disguised as calm. If someone dents your truck, you'll get mad. Sure, because you paid for that, worked hard for it. But if someone bruises your ego, maybe pause and ask, was that really worth the fire I just lit inside? The more value you place on your own image, the more fragile you become. But when you see yourself as just a man, not above, not below, you react with steadiness, not fire. And the world, surprisingly, starts to feel less like a battlefield and more like a place worth walking through with patience. I used to blow up over the little things, traffic, spilled coffee, someone talking over me, like a kettle always near the boil. But when I started to ask myself, will this matter tomorrow, next week, a year from now? I began to see how much of my fire was wasted on things that didn't deserve a spark. A strong man knows when to draw his knife and when to let the dust settle. He saves his fight for what's sacred, not what's petty. It's easy to confuse inconvenience with injustice. Someone cuts in line, and you feel your blood pressure climb. But you're not defending a principle. You're defending your pride. And pride makes poor decisions when it's hungry for attention. I've learned that when a man can walk away from a fight that doesn't feed his purpose, he's not being weak. He's showing wisdom. Not every fire needs your wood. Not every insult deserves your voice. So ask yourself, is this worth the weight I'm about to carry? Because anger has a cost. It steals sleep, poisons peace, and wrecks relationships. When we react to everything, we become slaves to everything. But when we filter our energy toward what truly matters, our family, our legacy, our walk with God, we gain ground. We build instead of break. And in that clarity, we find the space to stay calm and maybe even smile through the chaos that once made us explode. A man who loses his temper loses his influence. You can't lead with clenched fists or a raised voice. Not your family. Not your team. Not even your dog. I've seen it too many times. A father shouting to be heard. A husband demanding instead of guiding. A boss barking orders while respect slips out the back door. True leadership flows from calm, from presence, from the quiet strength that steadies a room rather than stirs it. I remember training a young horse that bolted every time the reins tightened. If I yanked harder, he panicked. But when I relaxed my grip and softened my voice, he started listening. People aren't much different. If you want someone to hear you, truly hear you, you've got to make space for understanding. A man who stays calm in the storm becomes the anchor. Not because he has all the answers, but because he's rooted deep enough not to be tossed. You want to grow? Learn to stay still inside, even when the world spins wild around you. That's what separates the hot-headed from the dependable. Anyone can raise their voice. It takes discipline to lower your tone. Anyone can bark orders. It takes wisdom to ask the right question. And when you do that, You stop reacting and start guiding. You stop escalating and start building. And that's when the people around you start following, not out of fear, but out of trust. Problem with most men is that we want change like we want our coffee, strong, fast, and ready by morning. But that's not how the heart works. You don't just wake up one day a calm, stoic man with no scars left to poke. Growth happens like carving wood, slow, careful, one stroke at a time. And sometimes you chip away for days before you even see the shape start to form. I've had seasons where I thought I'd finally conquered my anger, only to lose it over something small and feel like I was back at square one. But that's not failure. That's the process. Like hiking a steep trail, sometimes the next step feels just as hard as the first. But if you pause and look back, you'll realize how far you've come. You're not the same man you were. And even if the progress is quiet, it's real dots, so don't beat yourself up for not being there yet. You don't plant a tree and curse it for not giving shade the next morning. You water it, you wait, you show up again tomorrow. Emotional strength, like any good thing, is built over time. Some days you'll feel like a warrior. Others, like you're dragging your boots through mud. But both days count. And if you stay in the fight, if you keep showing up, something inside you starts to shift, and you'll feel it. There's this dangerous lie floating around that if you just read the right book, pray the right prayer, or hear the right sermon, your anger will vanish like smoke. I wish it worked that way. But the truth is, anger doesn't disappear, it waits. It sits in the corners of your mind like a coiled snake, quiet until the right moment. And that's why dealing with it isn't a one-time fix. It's a lifelong walk through the wilderness. I've had days where I felt completely free, calm, centered, grateful. And then, without warning, something cracks open an old wound, and I feel the fire rise. But I've learned not to panic when that happens. You don't kill anger by pretending it's gone. You manage it by acknowledging it, breathing through it, and responding with intention instead of instinct. A real man doesn't hide from his rage. He learns to walk beside it without letting it take the lead dot. So don't measure progress by absence. Measure it by recovery. Did you catch yourself before it got out of hand? Did you apologize sooner? Did you feel the fire, but choose not to throw it? That's growth. That's manhood in motion. Like sharpening a blade, it's a slow, gritty process, and it never really ends. But every time you choose discipline over destruction, you take one more step toward becoming the kind of older man you'd respect. The kind who still feels the heat, but carries it with quiet control. You don't really know who you are until life strips away the noise. The job title, the truck, the boots, the calloused hands, they're part of the picture, but they're not the man. I had to sit alone by the fire more times than I can count, asking myself, what am I chasing, and why? That kind of questioning hurts, but it's also where clarity lives. Because when you dig into your own motives, you start to see what actually matters. I once valued being right more than being kind, being respected more than being useful. But self-reflection has a way of turning your ego inside out. You begin to realize that legacy isn't built by how loud you talk, but by how well you listen. That a good man doesn't need to prove he's good, he just is. And suddenly, what felt urgent yesterday doesn't seem worth the energy today. That's the gift of humility. It reshapes your priorities without making a sound dot. So here's the challenge. Slow down. Take a long walk with your thoughts. Journal, pray, talk to a man older than you, and ask him what he wishes he'd focused on sooner. You'll start to feel the layers peel back. The truth isn't always pretty, but it's freeing. When you know who you are, really know, you stop trying to be everything for everyone. And in that stillness, you finally hear the voice that's been whispering the way forward all along. Every man wants to change until it gets boring. We love the fire of big decisions, the vows, the resolutions, the dramatic turning points. But real transformation, that's in the ordinary. It's in waking up early when you'd rather sleep in choosing to breathe instead of explode, in walking the same trail again and again until your steps finally feel steady. A strong man doesn't need a moment. He needs a rhythm. Discipline isn't glamorous, but it's sacred. It's the quiet act of showing up for yourself when no one's watching, splitting firewood when your body aches, saying no to temptation when no one would blame you for giving in, reading scripture or journaling instead of scrolling. And here's the kicker. You won't always see the reward right away, but over time, that slow drip of effort carves out a different kind of man, a dependable man, a man who can be trusted when life gets loud. So if you're tired of feeling stuck, burned out, or lost, stop chasing the breakthrough and start honoring the routine. Get up, make your bed, move your body, fuel yourself right, check in with your soul, and do it again tomorrow, not because it's easy, but because every day you hold the line, you get one step closer to becoming the man you said you'd be. And that kind of man? He doesn't need applause, just a reason to keep walking. So let me ask you, how much longer are you going to let your temper speak for you? How many good moments have you burned down because you didn't pause long enough to breathe? How many people around you are still flinching from the last time you lost it? Maybe it's time to admit being loud isn't the same as being strong. And anger, unchecked, will rob you blind while convincing you it's keeping you in control. What would your life look like if you learned to lead with calm instead of chaos? What if your kids saw you hold the line instead of snap the reins? What if your wife felt safe enough to open up instead of brace herself for another storm? These aren't just questions, they're invitations to slow down, to reassess, to take the next right step, even if it's small, because that's how it starts. That's how everything changes. If this message hit you somewhere deep, good. That means you're still in the fight. So keep showing up, keep walking forward. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. There's more coming, and you won't want to miss it. Around here, we don't just talk about manhood. We live it, one step at a time.